the sabbatical year, the Jubilee. God says to Moses on Mount Sinai,
"Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land that I have given you, you shall observe a Sabbath for the Lord.
You shall sanctify the 50th year and proclaim freedom throughout the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee year for you. You shall return each person to his ancestral land, and you shall return each to his family. It shall be a jubilee year for you, the 50th year. You shall not sow, you shall not harvest its aftergrowth, and you shall not pick what was set aside of it for yourself. For it is a jubilee year. It shall be holy to you. From the field you shall eat its crop.
For 6 years you shall sow your field, and for 6 years you shall prune your vineyard and gather in your yield.
But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of complete rest for the land, a Sabbath for the Lord.
You shall count off 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the period of 7 weeks of years is 49 years. Then you shall have the shofar sounded loud.
On the 10th day of the 7th month, on the day of atonement, you shall have the shofar sounded throughout all your land. And you shall hallow the 50th year, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all its inhabitants.
It shall be a jubilee for you. You shall return, every one of you, to your property, and every one of you to your family.
That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow or reap the aftergrowth or harvest the unpruned vines.
For it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You shall eat only what the field itself produces.
and so speaks a wandering people seeking Ha'aretz Hamuvtahat.
We are no longer enslaved, but are weary. Our bones ache as we move towards promise. Some of our children survive, others fall away.
We are broken, savaged by brambles, blistered by the heat of the sun.
We are empty, longing for food and a place to rest.
When we reach the place promised to us, we will be different. We will be different.
And so a wandering people decided, their decision carried from lips and tongue to the ears of the young for centuries, until the people made it the law.
Every 7th year you shall grant a remission of debts.
If there is among you anyone in need, a member of your community, in any of your towns within the land that the Lord your God has given you, do not be hard-hearted or offensive towards a needy neighbor. You should rather open your hand, willingly lend enough to meet the need, whatever it may be. Be careful that you do not entertain a mean thought, thinking, the 7th year, the year of remission, is near, and therefore leave your needy neighbor with hostility and give nothing. The neighbor might cry to the Lord against you, and you would incur guilt. Give liberally, and be ungrudging when you do so, for on this account the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake.
Since there will never cease to be some in need, I therefore command you, open your hand to the needy in your land.
They feel the king's hunger in the small towns where the crops grow most abundantly.
The tax collectors come every spring. No one knows what day or what time of day they will ride in on their donkeys. A band of soldiers surrounding them, some in front and some trailing behind. Most everyone finds out quickly because the news of them makes its way on the tongues of the younger men spilling in from the fields to bring the urgent message to the rest of the village. At times, shepherds, the dirty ones who live among the animals, catch sight of them first and bring their boys out of the fields to seek shelter from those who would grab them for work or conscript them into their land. The warning traveled with them as they found a place among the others who normally shunned them.
All but the heads of households take shelter high on the hill amidst the trees and away from the center of town where the men and collectors negotiate. The women with their children quickly make their way up the hills to a hiding place that will keep them out of view. All the way, we women quiet the children, lest the boys be caught laughing at their short beards and odd tunics that the men wear, or their strangely accented words.
Can you see them, sister?
A few. The short one who heavily burdens the donkey he rides on. The ones with swords, 2, no, 4. 4 with swords. One is talking with Joachim.
Joachim? Is he angry? If he is angry, maybe.
Quiet, sister. Jarai is with him, and 2 other of our men.
So maybe he will not raise his voice.
Too much. You take too much from us.
This is not the first time we've come, and not the first time I've kindly asked you for what the king is due.
What the king is due? And that sword your man draws is no kind thing.
Brother, quiet. Zacchaeus, you leave us too little in our storehouses for the winter months.
I leave you enough. Go to Jerusalem, your king. There's silver there to borrow.
Silver to lend? And when will you come next time and take it all?
There's silver to relieve you. Your debt erased, and you owe nothing more.
And I would have nothing more. You'll take our land, and we will have nothing left. This is the land of our family.
But remember, the debt will be erased.
And where will we go?
Work this land for a wage. But this is not my concern. Load the goods, the crop. Be careful with the oil.
What will happen, your king?
I do not know. We must talk to the others. We'll tell the women after the evening meeting.
A few drought years pass, and Herod the king's demands force more families to borrow first from their neighbor, and if the neighbor's store is empty, a trip to Jerusalem to mortgage the family farm for silver. Another bad year and the family becomes sharecroppers, and with the landlord's take, not enough food for the family. From crops for food to the money crop to trade to Rome, grapes for wine, olive oil, wheat, exports at record level. But food for the common people grows scarce and expensive.
A march is said. A Nobel Prize-winning economist from India says, famine happens in the presence of food because people have not the ability to buy it.
The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me.
Zacchaeus, the tax collector, stood there and said to the Lord,
Lord, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone, anything, I will pay back 4 times as much.
Then Jesus said to him,
Today salvation has come to this house, because you, too, Zacchaeus, are a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came out to seek and to save the lost.
In the decades after Jesus' ministry, social unrest rose, rooted in the spreading poverty, debts, and despair that Jesus had addressed. When widespread revolt finally erupts in the summer of 66 and thousands of Jews are crucified or sold into slavery, the rebels in Jerusalem set fire to the public archives in order to destroy the records of debt.
Thy will be done.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us our debts.
As we forgive our debtors.
Martin Luther said,
After the devil, there is no greater human enemy on earth than a wiser and usurer. For he desires to be above everyone, but a usurer and wiser desires that the whole world be ruined in order that there be hunger, thirst, misery, and need. Need so that he can have everything, and so that everyone must depend upon him and be his slave as if he were God.
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
Charles Dickens' father was thrown in debtor's prison, and at 12, Charles was forced out of school and into a blacking factory, a place that darkened his life and haunted his dreams. Families often accompanied a debtor in prison, and all were subjected to a typical meager fare.
Breakfast. Males, 1 pint of oatmeal, 8 ounces of bread.
Females, 1 pint oatmeal gruel, 6 ounces of bread.
Dinner on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for males. 1 pint of soup, 8 ounces of bread.
Females, 1 pint of soup, 6 ounces of bread.
Dinner on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for males. 3 ounces of cooked meat without any bone, half a pound of potatoes, 8 ounces of bread.
Females, 3 ounces of cooked meat without bone, half a pound of potatoes, 6 ounces of bread. Supper, same as breakfast, every day.
a debtor's prison was established in Rothwell, a village south of Leeds in the 17th century, and was later converted into a workhouse. When a debtor was first taken there, the Society of Debtors demanded that each newcomer pay a garnish, a fine, half a crown, or forfeit his coat. The latter usually being the case. The words of the Rothwell Debtors' Prison Song were noted by Captain Armitage in his The Annals of Wakefield House of Correction, and later set to music by Wendy Price.
We bid you welcome, brother debtor, to this poor but merry place, where no bailiff, bond, or setter dare to show his rightful face.
That kind, sir, as you're a stranger, down your garnish you must lend, or your coat will be in danger. You must either strip or pay.
Never mind in your confinement from your children and your wife, for true wisdom lies in true resignment through the varied scenes of life.
What was it made great Alexander weep at his unhappy fate? Was it because he could no longer wander through the wide, strong prison gate?
For every island is a prison strongly guarded by the sea. Kings and princes, for that reason, fierce prisoners are, as well as we.
How grateful I am to be here in these United States, where there aren't so many debtors' prisons, nor shortage of labor in the city, like in London, where labor is cheap. Instead, I'm the conservative.
Just as in 18th century England, a debtor in the United States could be confined over unpaid debt. The Prison Discipline Society of Boston reported in 1830 that 30 people were in prison
rebellion was a debtor's rebellion. The legislature of Massachusetts refused to issue paper money, as they did in Rhode Island, to make it easier for debt-ridden farmers to pay off their creditors.
I'm Flower Jones, and I have been greatly abused. I've been obliged to do more than my part in the war, been loaded with class rates, town rates, province rates, continental rates, and all rates. Been pulled and hauled by sheriffs, constables, and collectors, and had my cattle sold for less than they were worth. The great men are going to get all we have, and I think it's time for us to rise up and put a stop to it, and have no more courts, nor sheriffs, nor collectors, nor lawyers.
The state of Georgia was founded as a haven for debtors. Thankfully, debtors' prisons and indentured servants are no more.
Would you look at that sign?
Such people are always poor because they never save any portion of what they earn. It just melts away. The savings account in this bank will put you in the other class.
I'll say that's right. Wish those shepherds tenant farmers with no money could read this.
I'll say that's right. My bank proposes campaign to encourage saving and teach thrift.
In 1907, in Texas and Oklahoma, the bold weevil blight and the panic of that year swelled the ranks of white share tenants. In spite of calls for crop diversification, furnishing merchants demanded farmers plant one certain cash crop. Lured by the promise of prosperity, farmers knew that they had worked hard and been thrifty as the tenets of their faith directed. But creditors, indebtedness, and a market economy allowed small farmers little control over credit, commodity, or consumer prices. Many ended up as sharecroppers in what had once been their land.
In 1911, landlords demanded additional shares or bonus rents of those same sharecroppers. Cotton renters had to worry about the price of their commodity brought on the market, but also had to worry about how much credit the plantation store would charge and how much rent the landlord would demand. Some interest rates were as high as 35%, rising to 80% in 1914.
In Bell County, creditors in the town foreclosed on indebted farmers, held the land for a speculative increase in value, and then rented it to poor white refugees who continued to pour into Texas from the Old South. Consider this Waco landlord.
White tenants are worthless. They're lazy. They're lying anarchists. I have kicked every one of them off of my land except one and placed it with a Negro laborer who will do what I tell him.
My experience with white tenants was disastrous. They will lie, steal, and cannot be depended on to take care of the property entrusted to them. I do not know what is to become of this country so long as this class continues to increase.
Our young girls and women's health is ruined from dragging big heavy sacks up and down the cotton mills. They listen to their babies cry and wonder where the next meal is coming from. They toil in the fields, keep house, tend the garden, and raise children all at once.
It is not the lack of cosmetics that ages women of the farm before our time. It is the treadmill, the life of hard, incessant labor without reward.
We live like dogs. Senses on gravy and bottom salt. On seacorn baked gravy. Young mothers cut railroad ties to get bread, while others are begging.
In the heat of the day, under the glare of the hot sun or the blast of the hot winds, the crops wither slowly at first and only in the heat of the day. Toward evening, the plants revive, and by morning they present themselves erect and courageous to another day. But as the days go by, they droop more and more, until finally night fails to revive, and they start the new day exhausted. The gardens go first. then corn, sorghum, cotton. Grasses parch up, cattle suffer, farmers borrow.
Summer is the time for camp meetings and revivals, the time when the drought becomes darkest. Not uncommon to see groups of people gathered around a church, usually under an arbor made of scant vegetation, mesquite, willow, or cottonwood and oak. For the revivals that begin when crops are laid by. Baptists argue about the correct form of immersion.
Has to be full light.
No, sir, a sprinkling will do.
In 1904, the first of 13 summers in a shady grove of the Grand Saline area of Van Zandt County, a marginal farming section in northeast Texas between the Black Waxy and Piney Woods, over 4,000 people from the Red River to Port Arthur come together for a week in an encampment. 2 years later, in the pouring rain, 10,000 people travel to Grand Saline to hear Mother Mary Jones. During the day, they listen to speeches, enjoy picnics, and social events.
Good to see you, sister, from all Franklin Texas. We come from Bosque County.
I look forward to this all year. After the night meetings, discussions continue around the glowing campfire into the small hours. Pressure is upon them. Their homesteads are under mortgage. Some land has already been lost to foreclosure. They look for delivery from the eastern monsters whose lair they see in Wall Street. In the depressed summer of 1914, Texas farmers meet in 125 encampments.
Look at it, coming in procession. All the highways are filled with their wagons, far as the eye can see.
A stream of farmers' wagons filled with families lining the roads. Despite withering heat and drought, the crowds are without exception large and full of enthusiasm. Many of them have scarcely a crop between them, and yet they are the most generous, wholehearted people on earth. They listen to orators like Thomas Paine.
Be ye of good cheer, ye disinherited of the earth. For the day is coming when the Spirit of the Lord in your hearts and in your footsteps lighted with the lamp of the cooperative commonwealth. We will, with that old prophet Nehemiah, say to the rulers of the nation, restore, I pray you, even to this day, this land, their vineyards, and their houses, and they shall be restored.
And then, after a few days, they return home again, back to their farms, their wives, and constant worry about the bills coming due.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor.
Back in the early years of the 21st century, when the global pool of money was enormous, the swimmers in that pool wanted a place to invest their money with a high return, and so was born mortgage-backed securities. When there weren't enough mortgages, Wall Street had to find more people to take out mortgages, which meant lending to people who never would have qualified before. Banks didn't need to hold on to these mortgages for 30 years, just long enough to pass it on to the next person. And the mortgage brokers became, well, quite wealthy.
We would roll up to the marquee at midnight with a line of 500 people deep out in front. Walk right up to the door. Give me my table. We're sitting just next to celebrities, ordering 3 or 4 bottles of Cristal at $1,000 a bottle. They bring it out, they're walking through a crowd, they hold the bottles over their head. There are firecrackers and sparklers.
I had 5 cars, a $1.5 million vacation house in Connecticut, and a penthouse that I rented in Manhattan, with all this money I got from
and the neighborhood was just home. This was just home. I wanted to do an assisted living here. I wanted to help people. And the property wasn't in the proper condition that it needed to be, so I was advised to take the equity out of the property, some of the equity, and do a loan and start my project that way. The loan was for $28,000. It's really sad that all of this was lost over $28,000. The monthly payments was close to like $300 a month, but I was on a fixed income, and it just got to be too much. I really, at that particular time, didn't know all the ins and outs of a mortgage loan. I just took it by faith that I was going to be okay. Settlement is really fast. You just don't know. You know, you're trusting your mortgage broker. You're trusting the settlement people. You're trusting the bank. And what else can you do? You really don't have a clue. You're just happy to have someone say, yes, we will finance you. Yes, you are approved. Yes, you can go to settlement. I'm homeless. And it's just hard. It's a struggle. It's devastating. It's upsetting. It's unbelievable. But it's real. I don't have a home anymore, and I'll never forget this as long as I live.
We just went right at it. The bank's mortgage division had an emerging markets unit that specifically targeted black churches. They targeted black churches because it figured church leaders had a lot of influence and could convince members to take out subprime loans.
I was a manager, and all day I looked at loans. These people could barely make a car payment, and now we're giving them $300,000 to $400,000 on a house. Made me sick.
Then someone came to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?"
And Jesus said to him, "Why do you ask me about what is good? There is only one who is good. If you wish to enter into life, keep the commandments."
Which one?
Jesus answered, "All of them."
The young man said to him, "No problem. I'm good. Now what do I still need to do?"
And Jesus said to him, "If you wish to be perfect, go, sell all your possessions, and give the money to the poor, for you will have treasure in heaven. Then, come, follow me."
When the young man heard this word, he went away grieving, for he had many possessions.
I'm 62. I borrowed $12,000 at age 40 to go to a state school and get a BS degree. I worked in school, got a job after graduation, started paying off those loans, and then while working, I got an MS. I took school deferments, got a better job, paid balance. Figured I paid between $5,000 and $7,000 on the loan when job funding began to tank. Since then, I've had sporadic work, no work, or no pay. Got financial hardship forbearance from Sally Mae, and all the while interest was being capitalized. So now, I owe about $28,000 from interest on top of 9% interest, on top of interest ad infinitum. Maybe $7,000 goes to $28,000, which I will never be able to pay back. Sally Mae will not send out any breakdown of my account or deviate from strictly demand for payment. For 2 years, I've earned $5 to $8 an hour, 20 hours a week. Now up to $9.50 an hour. It is pointless to even make small payments because I'll still be in the fault. I can't afford it anyway. No way out. Boy, do I regret going back to school. I just started collecting Social Security. Will Sally Mae go after that? Or will they try to garnish my $237 pay weekly? I believe lenders plummet when people begin to fall behind. Or they can't pay because they can just continue to pile on interest, knowing the borrower can't pay it either. And they will basically have the borrower in debt for years and years. What a system. No, it's not financial aid. It's a dangerous loan gamble that can be very, very costly and destructive.
My story's about my daughter. She's a young adult who graduated with a master's degree in education. She was unable to find a teaching job, and she's been working at temporary positions for several years. She did receive loans and grants for her education, but also worked throughout her college career. Because of her student loans, her credit has been destroyed. She's lost hope, and she started to feel that she is less than other people her age. All she ever wanted was to be a teacher and have a positive effect on the lives of young people. I would do anything to help her, but I'm a widow and a fixed income. She is such a bright, compassionate person with so much to offer, but because of this debt, she feels like she doesn't have a future. Debt influences every aspect of her life in such a negative way. What a sad commentary on our socioeconomic system. Her story is so depressing, and I know there are many others who face similar circumstances. What can be done to help these young people?
62% of bankruptcies are due to medical debt. But wait, there are some businesses in the community that are eager to help.
Come in, Mrs. Lincoln. Sit down. How are you doing?
I've come in to pay my payments on.
Well, that's good. Everything okay?
It's a little tight.
I'm sure it is, Tom. I'll tell you what. We've got a new plan you might be interested in. Instead of you paying me, I can give you, let's see, I can give you $76 instead of you paying me $20. And we'll just roll that over into your existing balance.
I don't know. I like to pay my debts.
Yeah, Mrs. Lincoln. This is one of our best deals, and it's only good today.
I do need to pay off my electric bill instead of waiting. And Jenny has a birthday next week.
Good. Just sign here, and I'll get you your money.
She doesn't see the fees adding one to another as the money flips over and over again. $30,000 for one woman. She doesn't understand the prepayment penalties, the cost of paying off the loans early. A new fee incurred every time a loan flips. Ballooning interest masked in a low interest rate at the beginning.
Texas permits payday lenders to operate and charge any interest rate and fees which the borrower agrees to pay. The effective annual percentage rate for a 14-day $100 loan is 309%. Texas law protects military families and their families from some actions by payday lenders and requires lenders to make special disclosures to military borrowers. No other protections are in place.
While the United States no longer has brick and mortar debtors' prisons or jails for debtors, the term debtors' prisons in modern times still refers to the continuing practice of imprisoning citizens for debts. With more than a third of U.S. states allowing debtors to be jailed for non-payment, prison cells are filling with people arrested because of unpaid traffic tickets. And according to the Wall Street Journal, some banks are having people arrested for unpaid loans. These are some of the same banks that were bailed out when they got in trouble. Debt collectors in Missouri, Illinois, Alabama, and other states are using a legal loophole to justify jailing poor citizens who legitimately cannot pay their debts.
Breast cancer survivor Lisa Lindsay didn't pay a $280 medical bill that she didn't owe, and state troopers took her out of her house in handcuffs.
Workers holding an H-1B visa are at the mercy of their employers. They cannot move from one employer to the next without the risk of deportation. They cannot organize to negotiate for better wages or working conditions. They make wages lower than the citizens of the U.S. in the same positions. Are they the new indentured servants?
Immigrants borrow to come north or cross oceans.
Poor countries borrow to keep their economies afloat.
Corrupt leaders borrow and leave the burden of debt to their people as they leave the country.
Debt acts like a cudgel to dismantle programs that benefit many.
Are there no workhouses? Are there no debtors' prisons?
I am dead. That's right, it's me. Don't know why everyone gives me such a hard time.
You're a seductive one, aren't you? We can't seem to live without you, that's for sure.
I can be forgiven. I have been forgiven.
Maybe you shouldn't sin so much to start out with. If there is among you anyone in need, a member of your community in any of your towns within the land that the Lord God has given you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards your needy neighbor. You should rather open your hand, willingly, lending enough to meet the need, whatever it may be. Be careful that you do not entertain a mean thought, thinking, the seventh year, the year of remission is near, and therefore view your needy neighbor with hostility and give nothing. Your neighbor might cry to the Lord against you, and you would incur guilt. Give liberally, and be ungrudging when you do so. For on this account, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake.
Since there will never cease to be some need in the earth, I therefore command you, open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your land.
Creator God, who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
Thy blessed community come.
Thy will be done.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us our debts.
As we